I sometimes wonder what it was like to be a 14th century Christian monk living in prayer in the hills of Italy or somewhere. Your entire life is built around devotion. You and your cohort of Catholic monastics, maybe you build a chapel and you adorn the walls with beautiful depictions of God. Your own personal identity is lost to time, but it doesn't matter at all because you've committed your craft to something inconceivably larger than yourself. You are driven holistically by real purpose. I'm not a spiritual guy. Maybe you can tell on account of how I don't shut up about how pragmatic I am. But I think I feel connected to something outside of myself when my discipline has created the framework within which my art can just manifest. That sense that the art just happens out of nowhere. Once in a blue moon, there's that lightning strike. Everything just aligns. I'm holding my guitar and the song bursts forth like it was flowing from the ether and goes out through my hands into the world. I've seen creatives in interviews and such dismiss their experiences in this regard as, I know this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but there's a force there. To such a degree that countless people have traded their names to time for the sake of devoting their artistry to a higher power. Well, anyway, have you ever felt resentment? I'm wearing my glasses today because I got this fucking in my eye, and it's like that interview that Adam Friedland had with Sarah Jessica Parker where he's got that chunk of snot hanging out of his nose. Such is life. I worry that social media is the death of discipline. It's become so much more important to show that you are working than it is to actually work. And this isn't new. This is not some novel observation on my part. I've just been thinking about it a lot lately. I said in my last video that earlier this year I put a few months of real work into my musicianship, nose to the grindstone, broke through this skill plateau I had been sitting on for a few years, and I've been really thinking about that for the last 2 weeks or so. Not the accomplishment, but my acknowledgement of it. I'm obviously thrilled that I improved, but what I've been turning over in my mind is why it took me months to acknowledge that I had improved substantially. So quickly, on the side here, take 2 seconds, think about the last 6 months or so, think about every artistic project you've worked on, think about all of the skill building you've done. That fucking rocks. I never do that. I never give myself credit for my own work. Instead, I just feel stagnant. I feel like I'm not producing anything, and it eats at me. It's a terrible physical feeling, this weird psychosomatic stress response, and social media has a lot to do with that. And what's worse about it is when I do actually consider my growth and actually give myself credit for all of the work I've been doing, I can't help but grieve all of the time wasted in years past where I was rushing to make content and rushing to show what I was working on and prove that I was an artist. And for what? Who am I trying to impress? But here's where this gets fun, because the flip side of it is that your ego is a very powerful tool. I love getting better. It feels so good to get better. It fucking rocks trying to be the best. It does. I was talking to this friend of mine, and I'm telling you this so you know exactly how unhinged I am. I was saying to my friend, I'm sick of pretending. I am sick of making myself appear small for the sake of other people's egos. My goal is to master every artistic discipline, and I don't care if saying that makes me sound like an asshole. And they said, Noah, maybe you wouldn't sound like an asshole if instead you said, I think I'm gonna try these different... I said, no, you don't get it. I'm not gonna try. And God bless, Timothée Chalamet had that killer speech when he won the SAG Award for Best Actor for A Complete Unknown, which is a movie that was made in a laboratory specifically for me. But he spoke to something really simple that is crucial and I think highly commendable. He said, I know we're in a subjective business, but the truth is, I'm in the pursuit of greatness. Yeah, that rules. And that can rub people the wrong way too. But it's weird to me that both the social and legacy media landscapes today reward what appears effortless. You have these new artists appearing in the zeitgeist as if they were fully formed and blemishless, and it cannot look like there was hard work involved. I've had artistic peers in the past criticize me for treating my artistic work too much like work, for being too serious, but I just am. I am very serious about my artistry. And I guess it's just that doesn't seem fun. But how is it then that the most fun I've ever had in my entire life has been the product of grueling, deeply satisfying work with other serious artists? And a big piece of general advice that I do have in that regard is to keep an eye out for that type of person, those serious artists. If you cross paths with one of them, make that connection, because you will have them on your team forever. Game recognizes game. At one point in my life, that was hard for me, because I used to have a hard time seeing people improve and do good work. I'd be surprised if there is a single artist who hasn't been in that boat. Seeing other people get better and then succeed, I've had some hard times. I've been insecure. But truly nothing has been healthier for me in my artistic life than ignoring the social media virality pipeline outright and using that time to just sharpen my discipline. There is nothing to envy in anybody else's work when you have taken the time to plant your own garden and tend to it. That's why I juggle so many projects for myself. It's all enrichment, and I'm a strong believer in if you build it, they will come. Now, the they might not necessarily be an audience of paying customers, but you will almost certainly attract a crowd of other disciplined practitioners all focused on improving their craft. Suddenly you're resonating with people of all ages at different stages of very different artistic careers. My network of actors and musicians turned into puppeteers, then filmmakers, but that led to fashion designers and architects, and the through line that connected all of us is that we give a shit about good work. I was talking to somebody about my artistic work recently, a layperson, and they were kind of giving me shit about referring to all of it as work over and over again. They were saying that art shouldn't feel like work. Does that sound familiar to you? They told me it's not good that you consider something you love to be work, but I think that's a total misreading here, that work is exclusively synonymous with suffering, I guess, or that my mindset's unhealthy. But I love working, and I am serious about it. I find it deeply satisfying. I have a hard time sleeping if I haven't chipped away at some project that I have on my plate. And there's a line there. I am also trying to give myself more credit and give myself better rest time, but I'm in it. And I feel it's so often forgotten in the vein of there being this negative connotation to work that your novel will not be finished without work. That album that you're writing will never be produced without discipline. It is hard. Maybe some people are just afraid of that. Afraid of putting all that time and effort into their art and then it ends up ugly. But you know where I stand on that line of thinking. It's just easier, I guess, to focus on catching a brief viral moment in that fast content machine. That way, when it doesn't work out, you can hand wave it away as just being a stupid TikTok video. I just urge you, I'm begging you, if you care about your growth, do not let anybody make you feel like a freak for taking yourself too seriously. And I promise I tried to not sound too judgmental about some of this shit, but I don't think I did a good job. I just am so sad seeing some peers of mine who have spent years doing 20, 30-second bits of content, and now they feel lost because they wish that they had practiced instead. So here's really what I have to say. I believe that the ultimate practice of being alive is identifying your value system and living to those values. Society, socially and structurally, will often try to steer you away from those values, but I value my creativity and my creative skill set above any other aspect of my life, so my job is to stay in that lane. If and when that mindset garners critique from someone, I think that usually says something more about them